Thanks, everyone, for attending today. We appreciate your coverage. I'll provide a little bit of an outline of the format for today. We'll have opening remarks from Coach Ferentz, and then we'll follow with remarks from new assistant head football coach Seth Wallace, followed by offensive coordinator Tim Lester, and then finally we'll wrap up with Director of Athletics Beth Goetz. At the conclusion of that, then we'll open it up for some Q&A for each of the coaches. This is being streamed, again, live on YouTube, so we have microphone holders. So when we get to the Q&A portion and you have a question, raise your hand, and Jack and John will bring you the microphone. We will have a transcript today. We'll send that out, later today. So with that, we'll start with head coach Kirk Ferentz.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, welcome. Good to see everybody, and appreciate you guys being here. So just want to take an opportunity today just to follow up on a couple announcements that have been out and talk about some new roles, certainly for Seth, and then introduce Tim and let you guys visit with him a little bit. But start out with Seth. We announced that promotion a while back here, and just in a nutshell, it's really based on the quality work that Seth has done since he's been in the program. Spent 3 years as a grad assistant, worked under Norm Parker, years ago, and then has been back here since 14 and served in several roles. And with each year, his role seems to increase a little bit, and has just done a fantastic job. So I thought this was just an appropriate way to recognize some of the achievements he's had. It's not intended to single anybody out, anything like that, but just, I think, a recognition of really quality work in the role that he's had, the assistance he's given Phil, and the entire staff's done a great job with the defensive part of our program. So it was just in recognition of that, and I'll ask Seth to come up and say a few words. And we'll do questions and answers afterwards, but let each guy have a chance to visit.
Good to have everybody here, and thank you. We certainly appreciate it as a program. And first off, I give a lot of thanks to Coach Ferentz for this opportunity. Obviously very appreciative, very excited about it. This is something that I didn't expect. It's not something that you work for. You just kind of go about your day to day and try to do as good a job as you can. And I think that I think that's evident maybe in the way that you all have seen me grow as a coach over the years. It started here. It started here back in 2005. It would have been December of 2005 that I had a lot of appreciation for this program. I grew up in this state. I grew up in Grinnell, Iowa. My father was a small college football coach, so I was always paying attention to football at that time, college football, and specifically to the state of Iowa. I had friends that were Iowa State fans. I had friends that were Iowa fans. I was neither at the time. I was a father, or I was a son who was celebrating his father's successes, and so I had I had a little bit of background, but not a ton. I certainly that increased in, like I said, January of 2005. Actually, December of 2005, January 2006, when I picked up the phone and I had a mutual coaching contact that knew Norm Parker, and my love and admiration for this program really began at that time when Norm called me up, and then I later in January of 2006 became a Hawkeye, and I think I have been ever since. I took in the 19 years I've been here for 14, but I did take a little bit of a break, and after I was a GA here for Norm and Phil and Coach, I left and went to Valdosta State down in southern Georgia and spent 5 years down there, and then as Coach mentioned, I came back here in 14, and I think the big thing here is just the day-to-day around this program, around the operation that we have here, the people that are a part of this. the coaches that I have been around, that I'm around today, that some of them have come and gone. Some of them have served as big mentors in my life, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of those that I've had the opportunity to learn from. But probably more than anything is the players that we've had the opportunity to work with here. And I go back to my time here in '06 when I first showed up, and I was Norm's GA, but I was working positionally with Phil, and whether it was Miguel Merrick or Marcus Pascal then, or I'm working on the scout team and we're trying to block Mitch King, Kenny Awebama, guys like that from early on when I got here 19 years ago. I'm very fond of those memories, and then certainly fond of the memories that have taken place here in the recent years. And like Coach said, I got back here in 14, so this will be finishing year 10 if I'm correct, being back here. And we've had some very notable players. I've worked in a lot of different capacities, so I've had the opportunity to recruit these guys as a recruiting coordinator. I was an assistant D-line coach with Reese Morgan when I first got back here. I've worked with Phil in the back end, served as a linebacker coach. I oversaw our punt team, believe it or not, for many years. So in a lot of different capacities, I've been around a lot of good players, and most notably some of the linebackers that have come through here, and the Jewels, the Campbells, the Higgins, the Jacksons, Bensons, the Neiman brothers. There's been a bunch, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the opportunity that I have here. I'm very proud to be working alongside Coach Ferentz in this program, this university. So with that being said, I don't have much more for you other than, I would just tell you I'm probably a lot like the three linebackers that you witnessed this past year that all had the opportunity to leave. They all had the opportunity to go on and move on to different places. And I think there's a lot that pulls you here. There's a lot that makes you want to stay here. And because of that, I'm very fortunate to be here, very happy to be here. And if it wasn't for Coach Ferentz, if it wasn't for Norm Parker's phone call in January of '05, I probably wouldn't be standing up here. So with that being said, lastly, I congrats to Tim Lester, who will be up here in a second, and then Beth Goetz on her appointment as well. So thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate that. Before I bring Tim up, just say a couple words about the search and about Tim in particular. So, it's appears there's a lot of interest in this position, has been, and also the timeline. So we'll address that a little bit afterwards. But basically, as I said back in December, my first and foremost concern, and most of my time was, just focused towards our football team. It's my number one responsibility. So that was that. A little bit of research, that type of thing on the coordinator deal. But the bottom line is this: the whole key to this thing was to ensure that we got the best person, the right person for this position, and that was the goal from start to finish. So, the bottom line is I want to do what's best for our team and best for our program, and I'm confident that we had that. Landed the mark there. Roughly, just in rough terms, probably had a list of maybe 10, 12 people. Had conversations with 6 and really extensive conversation with 4. And, what it came down to, in my mind at least, we had 4 candidates that were really qualified, in my mind, to do the best job, and it's us to figure out who the best person for that would have been. So I think when you look at Tim and what I discovered, he's had a wide range of experiences. I certainly knew of Tim and was aware of his, background, especially at Western Michigan. As I did a little research, learned a lot about the wide range of experiences that he had. Some things, his story basically, I know I felt good about it and was very, very impressed. And I think as we opened the door and let the staff learn more about him and spend time with him, I think everybody, walked away feeling pretty good about things. So in my mind, he's a good fit for us, and that's first and foremost. Similar in a lot of ways to, I think, the way we've operated yet. A lot of different perspectives to it, new perspectives, and it's part of moving forward. Obviously getting different ideas, different views, and trying to implement in a way that we all believe will work for us. So feel really confident about how the process worked, and pleasure to bring Tim up here to just say a couple of words to you, please. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Coach. I'd like to start off by thanking Coach Ferentz and Beth Goetz for this opportunity. My family and I are extremely excited to be moving to Iowa City and be a part of this this football program. The one thing I know everybody wants to know is what we're going to be about, and I can tell you right now that we're going to be a physical football team. We're going to be disciplined, and we're going to be aggressive in everything we do, from run game to pass game to keepers to RPOs to tempos. One thing I've learned in my time as a former quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, head coach at pretty much every level, it's about putting your players in the best position to succeed. Unfortunately, I've only been here a couple days and haven't had a chance to meet all the players, other than a couple that were in the hallway in the last couple days. But I'm excited to get to work with those guys and to figure out their strengths, their weaknesses, figure out where we can put them in positions to have success to help our football team win. So it's going to be a process. We're excited to get started as soon as possible. We started the moment we hit the ground running, and but really excited to work with all you guys, to answer all your questions. But most importantly, I have a saying, RBO, relationship before opportunity, right? I'll have a great opportunity to coach these young men once I have a relationship with them. So that process is going to start real soon, and we're looking forward to having the opportunity to have some fun out there and be aggressive at all times. With that, I'm turning it over to, back to Coach, and I know I'll be back in a minute.
Thanks, Tim. And then last, just let Beth back clean up here. It's my first opportunity publicly just to say, really pleased to learn about Beth's full-time appointment, and I think you heard that from basically everybody in the department. She's done a great job since she's arrived here, and I think all of us know these are really interesting, unique times in college athletics. It's going to take, I think, a real forward-thinking leader to help move us forward. Our program's got great potential, and really confident Beth is going to do an outstanding job in that role. So I'll ask Beth to come up and say a few words too. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, Coach. And it's anytime we get a chance to support what Coach Ferentz and the program is doing, it's a good day for us. And so I just wanted to publicly have a chance to congratulate Seth and Coach Wallace on this well-deserved and well-earned opportunity. And what an example he is for our student athletes. And I know without question, as you all speak to them directly, the impact he has on them day in and day out, not only on the field, but certainly personally. So congratulations to you. And welcome to the family, to Coach Lester. We've got a little bit of history, so obviously we were in the MAC together, and so I got to compete against his teams a little bit, but I also had the opportunity to get to know his son, who's now a professional men's volleyball student athlete, went to the Final Four while I was at Ball State, and so it was a pleasure just to get to know the type of individual and the character he's bringing to this program, and we are so excited to welcome you and your family to Iowa City, and just want to congratulate Coach on putting together such a great staff and a great team. I know you, everyone is as excited as we are about the personnel coming back and counting down the days. I know Coach may like a few more, but counting down the days so we can start fall camp already. So great group. We're looking forward to the 2024 season. It's going to be an exciting one, and we're excited to have this group leading our young men. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Okay, if you have questions for Coach Ferentz, raise your hand.
I'll just throw a couple words out here too, just in closing, that really excited about this team, working with this team. We got back here almost 4 weeks ago, I guess tomorrow, or actually Wednesday. We get snowed out, iced out, but really like the group that we have. Certainly excited about the way the staff's coming together. We still have one spot to fill, and hopefully get that done here in the next 2 weeks. I think we've got a good grip on that. Certainly as we move forward, and it's like every year at this time, it's all about moving forward. A new team, new year, new opportunities, and the biggest thing is that we just have, I think, great people involved in the program at all levels, and really pleased with the success that we've experienced. And I kind of go with 5-year increments, and certainly the last 5 years with 3 10-win seasons, a lot to be proud of there. And we know there's a lot of work in front of us, and that's really the fun part. It's great to be off the road. Got the bowl game concluded the year last year. Get back here and you turn your attention to working on the staff, and then also starting to think about the things we need to be doing forward, and also recruiting. So it's just great to be back on this campus. It's always ironic. Our players get here and we all leave, go recruiting. Kind of funny how the calendar works. But, the best part's in front of us right now. It's when the work gets done, getting a chance to get reconnected with our players, getting to know them better, what their needs are, how we can try to move them forward, and then transition into spring practice at some point. But each and every day's got purpose. It's got importance, and this to me is a really fun time when you're on campus with your players, with your staff, and able to work with them. So looking forward to that, and we'll throw it out for questions for anybody that was up here today. So, yep.
Scott Docterman, The Athletic. Kirk, I wanted to ask you about the offenses that Tim has put together. It relies heavily on RPO and 11 personnel. Iowa does do a lot of 11 personnel, but also kind of a foundation that's more under center. How do you anticipate kind of the marriage going, and what are the kind of the keys that you think will help the RPO game work here at Iowa with what you have?
It's kind of funny. My first blush was crossover film through the years. You watch people, and first thing I think of is 12 personnel. Actually, with them, they ran the ball extremely well, and to that point, what you said is correct as well. And I think that's really the key component here. He's got a real diverse background. He's experienced in a lot of different areas, as were many of the candidates, and that's attractive. Last year, being in Green Bay, being on the defensive side, yet part of his response, I don't want to speak for him, but part of his job was to analyze the offense that the Green Bay would face each and every week. So he basically, forget about the preseason, but got to study however many that is. They play 17 in the NFL now, 17. Well, it used to be 16, 17 playoff games, 2 playoff games. So, it's like a year of research. And I've always joked about, it'd be great to have a sabbatical, like professors go research, study. The bad news is it usually means you got fired the year before when you get to do that in our business. But I think it was just a wonderful opportunity and really put it to good use. So, long story short, I think, he's got a real extensive knowledge of offensive football. And the most important thing in any year is knowing who your players are, where the strengths and weaknesses are, and then trying to get them in the right spot. And that came across clear during the conversation portion of things over time. Offense is all about figuring out who we got to get the ball to, and then working from there. And hopefully we'll have a couple of people to get the ball to, not just one or two.
Hey, Kurt. Chad Leicester, Des Moines Register. I'm sure, as you studied Tim's background at Syracuse, Western Michigan, even the Packers, I guess I'm just curious where you landed in terms of where his potential was offensively and what you liked about his track record, at all his stops. Yeah, I think I'd look more at the last 6, 7, 8 years probably. Purdue on, and with all due respect to Syracuse at that time, because I don't read a lot of feedback, but I did read somebody, took a shot at that one. And my first thought was, okay, if you evaluated my career at Maine, I probably wouldn't still be standing here. I never would have been standing here. We were proud of a 12-21 career record at Maine. So, you can go back, and I think you have to, quantify and qualify everything you look at. It's like our team last year. I think there are pretty obvious reasons why we struggled offensively. It really doesn't take a detective to figure that out. So, what I've looked at and focused more so, the job he did with David Blau at Purdue, and then the entire body of work at Western Michigan. You consider the MAC schools, they typically play at least 2 games that are, you're fighting, you're swimming upstream. Yeah, look at some of the wins that they had and some things they did, beating Pitt in 21. There's some really impressive things there, but more it's about the big picture. And then last year's experience is really factored into, you try to examine the entire resume, try to talk to a lot of people that have worked with him, know him and, pretty intimately, and then project, is this candidate going to be a good fit? And, I felt really good about it, the work I did on the front end, and then certainly with our staff getting involved. And everybody gets involved in it, the interview process, making phone calls, all that type of thing. So it's pretty thorough, pretty extensive. And because of that, I feel really good about where we're at.
Kirk, Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Wanted to ask you about the wide receiver position. Remember when Greg Davis got hired, he brought Bobby Kennedy in with him. Is that something you would consider doing with Tim, or have you kind of maybe settled, or do you have a direction where you're going right now?
I think we're on a good path, but There's no mystery. I mean, every position is not the same, but it is the same in that, it's a fresh beginning for everybody right now. We're fairly young in that room in a lot of ways, and we're fairly inexperienced in terms of production, that type of thing, but I think there's a lot of potential there, and ultimately you want to get somebody who can, just like Tim said a minute ago, build relationships, be good teachers, and most importantly, a coach's job is to help players become better. If it's pro football, it'd be all about becoming better players. College football, there's a lot more to it, seeing the big picture, student character, citizenship, all those types of things, as well as being good players. But I've given a lot of thought to the guys in the room. I think we have good potential right now, and really it's about moving those guys forward, seeing the potential, and also getting them to see the potential. I think that's probably the most important thing right now.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Kirk, when I guess you got to the point of the interview process where you were interacting with Tim, on a face-to-face, more kind of personal basis, just what, I guess struck you and made you feel like that relationship could be one that could work really well?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And Tim's situation is a little bit unique, but there were a couple, 3, maybe 4 people that worked with him that I really trust and value their opinions, and I know a couple of them have personal connections to this program. One person in particular, we have a past relationship. He was a player, 100 years ago for me, that worked with him for quite, So when you talk to those people and they know what we're about and they know what he's about, it's really reassuring because, a huge part of anything we do, and, we all spend more time with each other than we do our wives and families. The first thing is, you want to bring somebody in the building who is not going to be like everybody else, but, is going to share some common goals and realize this thing's bigger than any one of us individually. And that came across real clearly. And then, when you really get into the personal part of it and the personal interaction, the staff interaction, then hopefully that comes across to everybody and everybody feels the same way. And I think, again, I feel really good about, how our staff felt about Tim and their exposure to him and the things they learned too when they did their homework and research. But this was a group effort for everybody to be involved. I think is important, and for everybody to maybe not be unanimous on the vote necessarily, but everybody saying, yeah, I can really see this guy being, really successful with us, and then, letting him go to work.
John Steppe, Cedar Rapids Gazette. With promoting Seth to assistant head coach, is there anything he can kind of take off your plate, or is there anything that kind of changes day to day with what he's doing now he has this new role?
Yeah, it's the first time we've done this, so I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but quite frankly. If I weren't able to be here for some reason, and there was a practice back during bowl prep where I had to attend a funeral, I wanted to attend a funeral, and it just worked out where I actually made it back 10 minutes beforehand. But in a circumstance like that, or I'm not in the office for whatever reason, certainly somebody's got to kind of say yes, no, or here's what we're doing. And there might be some things as we go down the road here a little bit that maybe I can do a little better job in terms of delegating and taking some things off. And he's not the only guy on the staff, but I have total trust that whatever he does is probably going to be better than what I would do. So I probably could learn a lesson right there. Try to take that to task.
Take 2 more. Kirk, in the RPO game, there's a lot of times more slants that are involved, and probably more slants than you guys have run recently. Do you look at that as a positive for this offense and getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands at a mesh point? And,
sure.
And how can that help elevate, at least move the ball down the field in the way you want it to be moved?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something we haven't ever considered. We're blind to. It's like I kind of touched on earlier. I think, part of Tim's job is going to figure out, what do we want to emphasize? You can only practice so many things and do so many things and do them well. But if that's something we deem to be, good for our offense and fits in the package and we can execute it and not take away from other things, it's a balancing act a lot of times. But, yeah, I'm open to anything right now, any ideas. And the whole idea is advance the ball and, help yourself, and hopefully in theory there you're helping yourself in the running game, you're also helping yourself in the passing game. It starts with not having a negative yardage play. That's the first way to kill an offense. Besides turnovers, that's the worst. But I think one thing I would interject with his head coaching experience came across, and that wasn't a requisite, but it's certainly a plus in my mind because if you're paying attention, you really have an appreciation for how football is complementary and how one thing affects the other. And we've been pretty good on defense. Obviously, we want to be better offensively, and we have been better. We want to get back to that, but just how one thing affects the other, you got to be really sensitive to that, because as much as things change in football, and I know entertainment value is a big thing this day and age, but it's still about winning, and that's really where my focus was 25 years ago, and it's going to stay there. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is win games if we're going to keep score, which pretty sure. Someday we'll play without equipment. I'm convinced of that, but they'll probably still keep score. So look like and God only knows I didn't watch that Pro Bowl stuff, whatever it was on Sunday. But I can tell you this, I have watched it when they did have pads, and it's good they've done what they've done, because that was ridiculous when they had pads. That was just a waste of everybody's time. So anyway, and good reason. I wouldn't have done that either if I was one of those guys.
From the Hawkeye of the Storm. You were quoted in the past as kind of downplaying the total offense stat. I believe you were quoted on the Big Ten Network as saying it was the most overrated stat in football. Do you stand by that? And I noticed in the press release about Tim's hiring that his numbers at Western Michigan, specifically total offense, were cited. Do you still believe that's a stat?
Is that in context to making this hire? Is that for clarification?
Right, just
me talking about
forward
offense?
As far as goals and criteria for evaluating Tim's
I'll give you what I was referring to specifically, and then I'm going to step aside, let everybody else talk. But basically my reference is, it's an interesting, believe it or not, I do pay attention, like what goes on nationally. And I've kind of been fascinated through my career. There are certain guys that get reputations. In fact, I worked with one 26 years ago. Do the math here. 26, 27 years ago. No, holy smokes, 35 years ago. Okay. It was a guy who was all about him, and it was all about the next job. So it was all about his numbers. And the place I was at had a pretty prolific quarterback. In fact, we actually had two really good ones. But it was all about what he was trying to do, his agenda. Over my career, I've noticed there are certain people, I'm not saying that's like what all they're thinking about, but it's more about their portion of the equation, if you will. And I really don't gravitate towards people like that. And I'm kind of fascinated. I am a little bit petty. Sometimes I'll do a little research, and that's where the wins per game stat came from. So it's possible for a guy to really try to emphasize what it is he does, make himself look pretty good. Meanwhile, the team's winning 7, 8 games, which I'm not making fun of that by any stretch. Every game to win is tough, but when that starts taking away from what the team might be able to do, I really am not interested. I have no interest, and I've just never gravitated towards that type of person, I guess. And so, just not big in self-promotion, not big in, look at my guys. And sometimes those guys are really good, and the coach does deserve credit. I'm all for that, right? There's a reason why things happen typically, but I think, again, it gets back to what's the bigger picture. Are we trying to be a showy offensive team or a high blitz team or whatever? And that stuff's all great until you're giving up the big play, or an offense, you're turning it over, throwing the other team, and all of a sudden your defense is out there defending 20 yards. It just, everything goes together, I guess, and just never been fascinated with that glitzy stuff sometimes that a lot of people get distracted by. So, we're just trying to build a team. We're trying to build a team on the field that's going to be able to get the job done and hopefully at the end of the game win. And fortunately, we've been on the right side of that more than not. So try to stay there and try to improve on that. That's our goal. Offense is a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm minimizing that. And if we can average 500 yards and hold them to 150, awesome, unless we're getting 6 punts blocked. So, there's something everywhere. So kind of step aside. If you guys questions for Tim or Seth, please do.
Okay, if you have a question for Seth, raise your hand. We'll take a few for her, for him.
That's Seth, Adam Jacoby, going out awesome. Sort of talk us through the conversations that led you to getting to this position this spring.
Yeah, Adam, I don't know that there was too many conversations, other than just, an opportunity to sit down with Coach. And he pulled me aside a little while back and just said that this is what he wanted to do moving forward. And, used a lot of the comments, the remarks that he used earlier. So I wouldn't say that there were, a set of conversations or a process to this. It was more just a conversation and, an opportunity. And to be real honest with you, I don't see it changing a whole much of my day-to-day, as Coach mentioned. My opportunity to be on the defensive side of the ball and continue to do what I'm doing there, I think, takes enough of my time. But this is certainly a welcomed opportunity, and obviously excited for it.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Seth, can you just take us through kind of how you saw the dominoes fall with guys coming back on defense? Obviously Nick, Jay, a lot of other guys. Just how was that all for you, kind of seeing a bunch of them come back?
Well, to be honest with you, Kyler was the first one. Kyler did have the opportunity to move on, and he immediately came in and and said that he was coming back. And then, certainly the other two held on until, the last minute. Nick, of course, but Jay, Jay waited, and, I think he did his research, and I think he spoke with those that he needed to, in regards to his opportunity at the next level. But, he reached out, he called, same thing Nick did, and it just, it's a breath of fresh air for any coach or for any program, for any side of the ball, to be able to get back two guys that, certainly in Nick's case, I don't know that I was betting on that one happening. I felt like Jay, we had a good shot on, but when you get both of them back, a combination of the three of them that started for us, it's a pretty big deal.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Seth, you've traveled the road. You've GA to a smaller college to this point. What does this mean to you personally, as a kid who grew up in Iowa and have the faith of a head coach like Kirk Ferentz to? Yeah,
it's I talked about the love and admiration. So I think you can use those two words if you're looking for a response right now. The conversation that I had with Coach was, it was probably a real big moment. But, really just, knowing that, I grew up a coach's kid. My father was a Division III coach. That was a path that I felt like I was headed down, and I was good with it. I was okay with it, other than my mom kept reminding me, if you're going to be at the Division III level, you better, and no different now what we've created in Division I, but the Division III levels, it's a tour of duty, and she kept reminding me that, your wife better completely understand, what's going on here. And she better understand what's going on here in the current state, because this is a little bit crazy, too, what we're dealing with in college football. But I just think, certainly not what I set out to do, but it's a welcomed opportunity, and I think I'm very fortunate.
Seth, Elliott Clough, Rivals. We've got to talk a little bit with Kirk and Tyler about these new three linebackers coming in. I know they've all been committed for quite a while, all Eastern Iowa kids. What are your thoughts on them, and what attracted you to them, and what are your expectations, I guess, for their potential when they do get here? Yeah, I don't want to pigeonhole myself in recruiting, but it was a little bit by design. I don't know that you could count on three linebackers or three on the defensive side of the ball. I know you can count on more than three in the state being scholarship players at the highest level, and that's a tribute to our high school coaches and what they're doing in this state and the development and the type of kids we're getting. But to say that we were going to find three linebackers all within a 50-mile radius of Iowa City, and I don't think that any of you would write a negative article on those three, after being around them and seeing their storied high school careers, because they're all state champions in some regard, which is really fascinating when you think about it. And then they've all come through our camp, so we've had a first-hand opportunity to be around them, their family, but more so to vet them from a football standpoint or from a on the field standpoint is it's a little bit unique. So not counting out, I can't talk about next year's kids. You guys read about it, or you guys at least reached out to them this weekend. Sorry.
John Seppi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. You were mentioning in your opening statement having the opportunities elsewhere, but a lot keeping you here. Kind of what are those things that have kind of kept you here and made this such an attractive place to stay? Yeah, I think there's a want to be here. There's not a I wouldn't say there's a need to be here. I wouldn't say that there's an actual want to be here. And where I'm fortunate, where I separate myself from a lot of other people, is I'm from Iowa. My wife's from Iowa. My parents are around. Her parents are around. So any decision made beyond that would probably be pretty selfish on my part, and I might have to do it by myself.
and I don't want to do that right now. So, but the way we play defensively, the success we've had here, and, defense gets a lot of the notables, but, Coach alluded to it. You can go back to 9 years ago and you can see that, we're one of 5 programs that's, won 62% of their games or more a year. And, we're not much like any of the other 4. So, there's a lot that keeps you here. You got a chance to win. You get a chance to coach good people, good players, work with good people, good coaches, good staff. So, it would take a lot to leave here for, a lot of things, to be honest with you.
Finish up with 2 more.
Hey, Seth, Scott Docterman with The Athletic. And along those lines, I know in this neighborhood, I think at least 4 different schools in the former Big Ten West have reached out to you, talked to you in different facets in the last couple of years. What is your aspiration in the future? I mean, not this year. We know what you're going to do this year, but you're in 5-10 years down the road. Do you want to be a head coach? And if so, is succeeding Kirk, a step towards that in some regard?
Yeah, I appreciate your question, Scott. And I don't know that I've ever thought much beyond, where things are right now. I think that's always been. I've actually, I was around my father growing up, and I saw him do it. And there were times where I got, very nervous of the, the potential that you could wind up in that type of position, just because of all that it entails. So. It's not that I wouldn't want to get there at some point. I just think it's a byproduct of doing your daily job, and really that's kind of all I've been about, for the course of my career, is just, see how well you can do your job, where you're at, and with those that you're doing it with, and then the rest will take care of itself. But to David's question, there's a lot that that keeps me grounded, and I get to work with Phil, and I said he was an acquired taste a couple of weeks ago, and some people have asked about that. And don't ask me right now, because I'll pass on the answer, because I don't want to get into it. But having worked with him, having GA'd for him, having worked with him, I don't claim to have much of an ego. I know we all do to a certain degree. There's not much I need other than just the opportunity to coach our players, make some suggestions in regards to what we're doing defensively, and then, turn the page the next day and keep doing it. So I think a lot of it just keeps me grounded. Opportunity to be around, some really special people is a big part of it.
Last question,
Coach Wallace, Adam Jacoby, Rivals. You had a pretty good offseason in terms of returning guys that you really wanted to retain. Sort of the downside of that is you've got a lot of linebackers on scholarship, guys who are capable of contributing to this team. How do you manage a situation like that, especially with the scholarship count where it is right now?
Yeah, Adam, I recognize that, and I would reference it as maybe an inconvenience, not a downside. We've got a lot of good players on our team. The room that I'm responsible for is, as a foundation and a catalyst to what we do special teams wise. So there is opportunity there, but there are some guys in that room that have been waiting around for 3, maybe 4 years for their opportunity, only to think that opportunity was going to come available this coming year, and then you have 2 or 3 guys come back. So I do recognize that it's the ever-changing world that college football is. They've got choices to make. I would welcome their choices. I would give the 2 sides as best I could in regards to it. But at the end of the day, they've got to make some decisions, and I would say that is where we are fortunate. There's not a ton that is good about the transfer portal, but there are kids that can leave now and maybe try to find a better situation if in fact they're set on not being here. So it's hopefully an answer that sums it up. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Question for Coach Lester. Raise your hand. Start with you.
David Eichholt, 24/7 Sports. Coach, welcome to Iowa City, first of all.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think there's a lot of questions about the wide receiver usage. I mean, Iowa's only had 1 wide receiver with 600 more yards since the start of 2016. It's a position that comes with a lot of ego and wanting touches. I guess coming into Iowa City, how are you going to kind of maybe reinvent the wide receiver positions? Because I think you said in your opening comments, you want to put a product that people want to be a part of. So I guess just from a strictly wide receiver perspective, how are you trying to plan to do that?
Well, obviously wide receivers are a huge part, no matter what you're running schematically. But putting them in position, I think, is the biggest key. We through my time in coaching, I think we've been around quite a bit of pretty good ones, and we've been able to find ways to get the ball in their hands. There's a lot of ways to do that. Whether it's screens, whether it's just straight drop back, whether it's putting them in the backfield. The flexibility of an offense is key. And so. I haven't had a chance to meet all the wide receivers yet, but I want to make sure that the quarterback understands that we are going to spread the ball around, and he's going to read his keys as he's supposed to. It's my job to make sure that one of those first couple options is the guy that we want it to be. Had some success with that, and plan on keeping it going.
Hey Tim, Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register.
Hey Chad.
Were you calling plays in 2021 for Western Michigan?
In 21, yes. I did 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no.
My research was unclear.
Cody and Jake Moreland and
okay.
I mean, Jake is
gotcha.
My best friend, and we think the exact same. We played together. We coached together 80% of our adult lives.
Okay, gotcha.
And we kind of groomed, and he was ready. So we kind of hopped in and kind of team did it that year, but 3 years before that I called him.
Gotcha. So, well, anyway, I've been studying the 2021 season because that was a terrific offensive year for Western Michigan. Yeah. I'm just kind of curious, what you remember about that season in terms of the production, how that could maybe apply to what you want to do here, because I see a lot of things here, like rushing attempts, time of possession.
Yeah,
the wins were good ball security, those types of things.
Yeah, I think we were top 10 in the country in time of possession, four. I never huddled, which was unique, That team, I felt like we did a good job running the ball, finding our run lanes, and the pass comes after that, right? We never even talk about throwing the ball until we figure out how to move the ball on the ground, and that was an explosive team. The one thing that people don't, maybe it's because I'm a quarterback, and I always have been, and coaching them, we're going to do what that person does best. And Caleb was good at it, and before that we had John Wasink, was my first couple of years our quarterback, and he was great at drop back, going through a progression, that was his thing. I just saw a trophy with the Campbell Trophy in there. John was a finalist for that, which is what an award that Jack won. John was a finalist when Justin Herbert won it, and so it changes every year depending on who you have and what he does well. I mean, that guy behind the center matters, right? And so figuring out what he does well, because if you have a flexible enough offense, we can call it any way he wants it. That year Caleb was really good at the RPOs. We had some pretty dynamic wide receivers, D.S. Cridge and Sky Moore. We had 2 second-round draft picks out there running around, and so that combination that year was a great mix, and we had a great combination with Jake upstairs and me on the field, and so every experience can help us, right, moving forward. But we got to figure out kind of what we got and what's the best way for us to be efficient, aggressive, run the ball, and help the team win. And then we'll do those things, whatever they are.
Hi, Tim. John Steppe, Cedar Rapids Gazette. How do you blend, or what's kind of the process of blending stylistically what you've done before with the RPO, with other things, with kind of what Iowa has done historically, has found success doing historically?
It's a process that started a couple days ago, but it's an exciting process, to get everyone's opinion in, and I have all kinds of playbooks, what's going to jive with what they know and where we think we can improve, and so I've coached long enough now that I've run a lot of systems, in 2008 when I was a Division III coach, Seth was talking about that. We ran the Shanahan system. He was the quarterback coach at Houston Texans. Matt, who I played college ball with, got him coffee. I think that was his official role. And so I got the playbook then, and we ran that at Elmhurst. At Syracuse, when I took over, we took over a spread offense that didn't even have a tight end, and we tried our best to blend them together, and then we went to Purdue and got to run the Saints offense, which was really neat, learned a ton. then on to Western, where I had an offensive coordinator my first year, and then when I took over, tried to put a little bit of that in it, and then to go back and work with Matt this year was full-fledged, that system. Everyone runs that system a little differently, but it's fun to get back after 10 years of being versions of it. It was fun to just be in it and watch all the teams in the league run a version of it. Not all of them, but a good portion. So there's a lot to choose from, and I hate to keep going back to this. Like, I can't wait to see what we have, you know. But I definitely know how to tie them together, and a lot of the formationally and how we're going to build it. What gets called will be depend on kind of what we see in spring and what we see as we see these guys move around here in the next couple months.
Coach John Sears, WHO-TV.
Hey, John.
Iowa's offensive struggles are well documented from last year. In what you've learned about the program and maybe taking a look at the roster and the personnel, what gives you confidence that you can come in here and kind of help move this program in the right direction?
Well, I love tight ends. I'm a huge fan, right? Everywhere I've been, our tight end has been all conference normally, you know, and there, I guess as a quarterback, that's the guy that you start with, right? So some people use them, some people don't. I love the fact of what they can do to a defense in the run game, in the pass game, in the play pass game, in the keeper game. You know, it also can open up things out on the edges too. So I know there's an unbelievable tradition here of that. I've heard we have some really good ones. Everything's I've heard, right? I've heard this and I've heard that, but I can't wait to see it from my own eyes. But that part of this offense of running 12 personnel, which is really what we did at Elmhurst and a little bit at Syracuse, you know, that fits what I have a lot of experience in. Let's put it that way. And but none of those work if you can't run the ball. Right? So you go to a place, if you want to run an offense that's going to be physical and run the ball, you got to go to a place that can run the ball. And, you know, I have looked at the numbers there to make sure that can happen, and we've had success, and we have to continue to have success to get the rest of it to go. And so those combination of those things, you know, make me really excited about what's coming.
Tim, Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report.
Hey, Tom.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Twofold question.
Okay.
Sidelines or press box for a game? And Cade McNamara is likely going to miss most of the spring. What is the challenge when your starting quarterback is not available to you on the field for spring ball and trying to implement your offense?
I would say to the first question, I would say up. You know, I prefer being up. I like to see the game from up there. I think being an offensive coordinator is about making adjustments. I've called games for a long time. I was a head coach at, I want to say, 24 years old or 25 years old. And so I've called a game where 70 passes. I've called 70 runs in a game. You know, you have to make adjustments as it's happening, you know, because they have a plan too. And so when you're having to think and make adjustments, I just think being in the environment up in the booth is a way better learning environment than sometimes on the sideline where it gets very emotional, you know. So I've always felt better. Now, as a head coach, I had to call him from the sideline. So that guy up in the booth was the most important person in the world to me, that we thought the same way, you know. But if it came to my preference, pretty sure I'll be up. And then the second half of your question is, the one thing I would tell you is, you know, we need to get the horses to the race, right? So, you know, whenever Cade's ready to go, I'm looking forward to working with him. But there is absolutely zero way that you can discount his experience, right? It is you know, when you have experience in playing in games, I'm very confident that he'll pick it up when it's time, when he's healthy, when he's ready. If he didn't have a ton of experience, I'd be more scared, more worried, you know. But you know, he's got to get healthy and be good to go when he gets his chance, and he'll be out there every single day we're out there, whether he can throw it or not, but he'll get a lot of learning in, but he's played games, and that is invaluable when it comes to quarterback play. So I'm excited about that part of it.
Hey, Tim, Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters here.
Hey,
kind of a question about Cade McNamara as well. You know, he's somebody who's had experience, as you mentioned. What are some ways, I guess maybe assuming he'll be healthy by the start of the season, that you could accentuate and elevate him as a quarterback?
I got to make him comfortable. Number one, right? I mean, everybody's comfortable doing different things. I think sometimes quarterback coaches they have things they like to do. I'm not married to anything. I've run a lot of things. I have a really unique experience as far as levels, and I've been a D coordinator, and so I got to get him to. I got to figure out what he's good at, and I got to put him in those situations as much as possible. And I've watched a little bit of film on him, not enough that I can comment on any of that, but I think that's and the things that I need him to get better at, we have to focus on, right? You get what you emphasize. So we're going to make sure that he can do the things that I think this offense should be able to do well. And then if there's things he's really good at, we're going to do them. Much like we were talking about the RPOs earlier, Caleb was great at them, so we did them a lot. And it worked. So that I got to get to know him and make sure every quarterback. I mean, there's a couple, that the year I was at the offensive coordinator at Syracuse, we lost our starting quarterback. I want to say it was play 7. It was an Achilles. It was like an Aaron Rodgers thing, and then the backup went down, and I ended up playing a walk-on, and the offense totally changed. We had to change, So I got to get to know each guy and what they do well, so that we can call the offense to have the most success when he's in there. But that's on me to make sure I can figure that out and put him in good situation to have success.
Finish up with 3 more. Start with Scott.
Okay.
Oh, Scott. What's up?
Yeah. Scott Docterman with The Athletic. How you doing, Tim?
I'm good.
Good to see you. Quick question, and before my real question, you're going to be coaching quarterbacks just to make sure? Is that
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Route concepts.
Yes.
How do you? What structure do you like to run? Especially because you ran so much RPO.
Yeah.
How do you like to build your concepts? Beyond the line of scrimmage, you ran a lot of 11 personnel. I mean, or 11 or 10 personnel, probably 90% of it that I've seen at least.
Me? 10?
Yeah. Not 10.
I was going to say 10. I think I'm probably, yeah.
But a lot of 11 personnel.
Yeah.
But how do you anticipate that working within kind of the foundation of what Iowa likes to do, because 12 is such a staple here? Yeah.
I kind of think I look at myself as a 12 guy. When the years we had 12, I can remember my first couple of years at Western, we had 12, and those are good years, where I felt more comfortable with what we were doing. At Elmhurst College, we were 100% 12. That's all we ran the entire season. So, but either way, when it comes to route concepts, it's you got to understand the timing of the quarterback's footwork, and we can build. It's kind of like a piecemeal every week. You're building the concepts. Now, there's some full field where we're going to call it. He's going to know his progression, and we're going to go to work. We'll have 4 to 5, 6 of those that he's comfortable with. But I just think the flexibility in the passing game is what makes, the offense I ran in college, which is more of a Spurrier stuff, compared to what Shanahan does and how they build their progressions every week. So it might look like a different route combination every week, but we will change them based on coverages and what we're seeing. But I want to get the quarterback comfortable with the same thing over and over again. The key is to have him do the same thing over and over again and have the defense think it's a different play, right? So when you have we like these 2 or 3 things against this coverage, and we like this on the backside against this coverage, and you can mix and match them, and you get 5 on the front, 5 on the back, and the iterations of those 2, and then you add shifts in motion to it. You can really put a guy in a comfortable situation where he knows what's going on. It might not look like that to the defense. That's the plan. But it all starts with what we're getting and what he's comfortable with, and so we have to get him. We got to get it installed, figure out what he's comfortable with, and then we can build it from there. But it always starts with the coverages we're getting and what our guy's good at, and then I feel like we can always build it from there. I got 600 pages of pass plays in there, figuring out what he's good at and getting good at something. Jack of all trades, master of none is not what we need to be about. We need to figure that out so we can get really good at something.
Jack Lita with KCRG.
Hey, Jack.
With KCRG. Welcome to Iowa City.
Thank you.
What you said before, RBO, relationships before, or RBO.
Oh, yeah, opportunity.
Regarding that, a lot of coaching is not just X's and O's, but a matter of trust, building relationships with a lot of guys you haven't met, guys who were playing for a different guy under a slightly different system 4 months ago. What is the key in coaching? You've been around different places, in being an offensive coordinator and earning trust of those guys, especially in these first few weeks when you're meeting them for the first time, showing them these new things.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think the biggest thing is sitting down and learning about who they are, and because it does matter. It is fun watching. We have cut-ups and they get to watch, some NFL cut-ups, and I think they always appreciate that, running some of the things that they've run at that level that we've had success running at that level. But it's the most important thing is for me getting in front of them and really just asking where they're from, because I don't know for a lot of them, some of them are from in my backyard in the suburbs of Chicago, some are from Iowa, some are from Australia. I met him the other day, and he didn't even have to tell me where he was from. I knew, and it was awesome to meet him. So that's really the key, because I know once we have that relationship, then it's time to go to work, and I got to show them kind of our ideas of what we want to do. I really want to see them all move around. I'm excited to start getting the playbook put together, which is going to take some time, and really watching all of last year's film to watch the guys play. And I haven't had a chance to do that yet over this weekend, these 4 days, but that's what's coming soon.
We'll finish up with two, Pat and Matt.
Hey, Tim. Pat Hardy with Hawk Fanatic and KCJJ Radio. First off, congratulations. Welcome to Iowa City.
Thank you.
Just want to know, how much do you value mobility at the quarterback position, and will that be a priority moving forward when recruiting?
I value efficiency at the quarterback position. Mobility would be a bonus. Like, if I can get both, 100%, I'm all for it. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? But there has to be efficiency first, right? And I think sometimes people get enamored with the mobility, and when they have to drop back on a third down and get us a first down, or a 2-minute drill to go win us the game, that we can't fall short in that scenario. You got to play quarterback first. You got to be able to move the sticks with your feet, and the more you can do, the more we can do when it comes to running the ball. So it's a great icing on the cake if you can have it. So I'm always looking for it, but I'm not going to go away from a guy that I think can really execute an offense and make throws and be efficient as a quarterback, just because if he can't do that, I'm not going to just take him because he can run a little faster. You know what I mean?
Last question, Matt.
Hey, Coach. Matt McGowan from the Daily Iowan. So back in 2022 at Western Michigan, how much of the play calling were you involved with, and what did you take away from that season?
Was that my last year?
Yeah.
Oh, I hired a new offensive coordinator. He came in and put in his system. I was going to be more of a head coach, and when did I take over? Last 4 games? We were really struggling. We weren't playing complimentary football. We were turning the ball over. We lost our quarterback in Sky Moore. They had 2 years left before they were done with their eligibility, and they left in January to go to the NFL draft. Obviously, I was excited for him, but it threw us off guard a little bit. It's worked pretty well for Sky. Obviously, he won 1 Super Bowl, and he's going to another one. So excited for him. But so we were struggling personnel-wise, and so I think we won 3 of our last 4. It wasn't pretty. It was what we had to do. I played a true freshman quarterback and 2 freshman wide receivers, and kept ourselves in games, let our defense play great, play good. I mean, we found a way to win those games when that's what we had. That was our best foot forward. I think I caught the last 4 that year, and had to call different words than I'm used to calling, so I had to read it off a sheet, which is harder for me. And normally the guy that puts it in his back pocket and doesn't take it out, But yeah, I called. That was the last 4 that I called.
Okay.
We're good? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We done? No, thanks,
Bill.